Good morning. I consider it a great personal honor to have been asked to introduce Philip Eaton, Seattle Pacific University president. Phil is the 9th president of SPU, and this being the 16th year of his presidency, he is the longest-serving president in more than 50 years. Phil was a commercial real estate developer in Phoenix for several years, where he developed a taste for a certain Arizona basketball team. And he did that following his very successful 17-year stint as literature professor at Whitworth University. If you Google Philip W. Eaton, you get 1.4 million results. One of which is for a student-generated Facebook group called Philip W. Eaton Hosts Sweet Parties. In contrast, I'm humbled to say that Stamatis Vokos only gets you 3.1 thousand results. So. By the way, students love Phil, and they have a very special affection. One reason for the love that members of all of our community expressed toward him was perfectly captured for him by a comment that Lane Seeley, my physics colleague and good friend, made about how Phil makes you feel during a conversation with him. Phil drops everything and listens, and he's genuinely excited to hear what you have to say. Indeed, there is great joy and optimism in this man. The Google results illustrate that our president is everywhere promoting the university. That is the Eaton signature. Look outward, explain what a Christian university can do, explain what this Christian university can do, and seek support for that work. Also look inward to constantly challenge the university to articulate better what it does to help students flourish, so that the students can be ambassadors of academic competence and Christian character to help heal a wounded world. This summer, Phil's book was released with a vaguely familiar sounding title, Engaging the Culture, Changing the World, the Christian University in a Post-Christian World. This book has been extremely well received. Phil is a risk taker and a very thoughtful risk taker. Those of us who pursue large, complex projects know well that the only way to make them, at least some of them, reality, is by dreaming big and investing time, money, intellectual effort, and political capital. Phil models intellectual curiosity in the life of the mind. I admire his reading list, and I cannot possibly keep up with all the stuff that he reads. I have no idea how he finds the time to do that. Phil at SPU advanced the need for a common curriculum, and he has been a proponent for that cause for a long time. He has also championed faculty development, and near and dear to my own heart, he oversaw the new science buildings and thus the renewal of science education at SPU. As the award-winning Response magazine states in a recent interview with Phil, during the course of his presidency, he's seen, among other things, more than 12,000 students graduate, 500,000 square feet of facilities built or renovated, an increase in the size, selectivity, and diversity of enrollment, and strong new visibility for SPU, both regionally and nationally. Now, they say that behind every successful man, there is a woman rolling her eyes. This is patently false in Phil's case. First, Sharon Eaton is not behind him, but right next to him, and has been next to him through thick and thin. And secondly, this wonderful, gracious woman, her eyes show such love and compassion to all of us. So what I would like to do is I would like to invite Sharon to stand and be recognized by a community for all that she does for us. Phil and Sharon have 3 sons and daughters-in-law and 7 very lively grandchildren. Now, yesterday, Phil announced that he will be stepping down as president next June. This is going to be a time of significant transition for Seattle Pacific University. And I'm sure, Phil, that I speak for everyone in the SPU community when I say you have been, for us, a great leader. May God continue to pour his abundant blessings on you and your family in the year ahead and in the years after that. Please welcome Philip Eaton, President of Seattle Pacific University.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you, Stamatis, for that wonderful introduction. It was worth the price of admissions, and I appreciate it so much. Very thoughtful, and it's great to be gathering with you all. And I would say welcome now to another great beginning of a great year ahead for Seattle Pacific University. And I would also like to thank Pastor Blake Wood for leading us this morning, our new pastor here in this church who is so energetically moving forward. I would like to also say to Stephen Newby, thank you for your leadership, and all the worship team here this morning. What a wonderful way to begin our year. I always say this, I'm going to say it again, okay, that this is a great way to begin for a Christian university, to gather around the Lord's table in humility, in gratitude, in unity, together around the Lord's table. That's a great way to begin. This is a great place to work, isn't it? I would also want to say that Pastor Wood is giving just tremendous, energetic leadership to bridging the gap between 3rd Avenue, the university, and the church, bringing us together, as he said in his comments, tapping into those deep historic roots between the church and the university. He's bringing the right instincts to all of that, and I just so excited with what can happen. This has been a dream of mine for a long time, Blake, and I lift you up today because you are taking such strong leadership to make this happen. And Stephen, for your involvement in that, jumping into that venture. Watch out, folks, some great things are going to happen this year. As we bring the university and the church together more meaningfully. Well, I began my 16th year as the proud president of Seattle Pacific University. Now, this is the 16th time I've had the chance to try to say something about where I think we are and where I think we are headed. Whatever you may have taken away from all of these addresses over the years, I have always counted it such a privilege to be able to give this address. I counted it a high responsibility to be able to lead in this way. This is one of the ways I have been able to lead, I think, over the years, so I am so delighted to be here for the 16th time. And this will be the last State of the University address I will give. In fact, this will be the first of the lasts for Sharon and me as we move through this year. This is not real easy for me. I've never done this before. And I am so ambivalent about this decision, I want you to know. On the one hand, so not ready. On the one hand, so sad. And yet, on the other hand, I am kind of giddy with excitement about what lies ahead for Sharon and me and what lies ahead for the future of this great university. In so many ways, I think this is such a good time for such a transition. As we go through this year, I hope we can do some deep and appropriate remembering. Sharon and I will be doing that, of course, all along the way. but perhaps we can do some of it together. Not to be maudlin about the past, to be sure, not to idealize the way things have been. That's never healthy. I have no desire to get stuck in the past. But I have this strong conviction that what we do in the present, how we look toward the future, is always built on remembering. That's the biblical way, you know. The scriptures tell the stories of our history over and over again, and we repeat them over and over again as the church. Our stories are the building blocks both for us as individuals and for organizations we are trying to build, and for the church. It is the stories that shape us. I will always remember, for example, Professor Rob Wall's beautiful lectures, often in this very room, as he carefully and lovingly opens up another New Testament text. Those lectures are some of the building blocks we have as a university. They are some of the building blocks for my life and who I am as a person. When Stephen Newby sings, "When I meet my master face to face," I am moved, deeply moved. I have such joy as we sing together, as we just did, "Great is thy faithfulness," or when our concert choir, under David Anderson's able direction, sings "Almighty Fortress." I've been reading Augustine and Aquinas this summer. Who knows where this intense curiosity comes from? I would like another chance to talk about that. I don't know exactly why I am drawn so powerfully to these two figures, but I got this idea that maybe they were both engaging disintegrating cultures in their respective ages, the 4th century and the 13th century. What could we learn from these two towering figures about engaging our own disintegrating culture? And so I passed on some of my thinking to Professor Rick Steele, one of the most classically educated among us. And Rick took the time to respond with a long email. So rich and nuanced and so thoughtful, as he always does. And he proceeded gently and eloquently to correct my faulty notions. I will remember that exchange with great fondness, Rick. What a rich place this is when we can engage each other in such a way. I will remember all the lunches with Marge Johnson as we tried to map out strategic tasks for this complex organization. You cannot imagine how much thought has gone into this university over those tables at Chinooks. I will remember how blessed I am to work with some of the finest leaders in all of Christian higher education, the vice presidents of this university. I am so grateful for their good work, for their loyalty, for the incredible competence, for the friendship I have with them. They are the best, and I love them. They have made me a better leader each step of the way. I think about all the dinner conversations with Sharon. We always told ourselves we had to get a life, but our talk was always about SPU. What a partner she has been in this work. What a listener. What an encourager. What a wise counsel all through the years. I will remember a lecture from David McCullough at our downtown business breakfast on the value of remembering. I will remember the life-shaping influence on me and so many others of the great Tom Wright, through his books, of course, but through his presence on our campus with his big cross and his purple bishop shirt. It was so cool. I remember when a graduating pre-med student told me she had no fear to bring her science and her faith into meaningful encounter. And I thought, no fear. That's the characteristic of learning in this great Christian university. I remember when Derek Wood told our board that his students were actually changing the world in his lab. I remember sitting with Aaron O'Connell and Tom Box in Tampa as Chuck Sekra led our women's soccer team to a national championship in overtime, in the pouring Florida rain. And I will remember always sitting at the feet of the great John Perkins in Jackson, Mississippi, with a group of our students as he opened up the scriptures and introduced me in profound new ways to a gospel of joy and reconciliation in Jesus Christ. John Perkins changed my life, and I believe he has changed the character of this university. I remember all the meals by Loida, lovingly prepared, the exquisitely planted flowers by Jeff Daly. I will always remember and be grateful for Karen's patience with me, her strong orderliness, her steady calling to serve. I will remember the servant's heart of Dave Church, of Wayne Elling, of Sonny Chott, and so many others. I will remember always the time our security officers saved me from a feral cat. These are the kinds of memories that have shaped my life, and they have shaped Sharon's life over these 16 years. But most importantly today, this is the kind of remembering that shapes the Christian community we are trying to build in this place. Remembering gives us meaning for what we do, for who we are, and for where we are headed. So out of all of this, we find the threads of the state of the university this morning. But it's not just remembering I am doing right now. I am anticipating the future for me and for the university with great excitement. And so I want to talk about that future. Let me say a few personal things to begin with. For 16 years, I have carried that big high ceremony medallion around my neck. I am so proud to be able to wear that thing, representing all of you as president of this wonderful university. I was just in Boston on Friday for the inauguration of a new president at Gordon College, and I wore that medallion knowing that this was one of the last times I would do so, but I was representing all of you as I wore that symbol of my role here. Sometimes, though, that medallion gets really heavy, and every day it is there. For 16 years, I get up each morning with a spring in my step, to be sure, but with a heavy weight of responsibility on my shoulders. It is never not there. So let me tell you what I'm thinking this morning. Come next year at this time, I will hang that medallion over someone else's neck. And I will step back and I will watch with pride and excitement as the future unfolds under exciting new leadership. And I will be able to say, hey, it's all yours, baby. I'm right beside you. I will do whatever I can. I'll be cheering you on, but the medallion is around your neck. That makes me very happy, and it makes me very excited both for my future and for the future of this great place. I remember coming home from the defense of my dissertation. I was already a professor at Whitworth at that time, teaching ABD for 2 years while I finished the writing. I went back for that final ceremonial grilling called the defense of the dissertation. As we began gathering with the committee for my defense, I remember my dissertation advisor motioning me into his office. He closed the door, and he pulled out a flask, and he offered me a shot of scotch. Now, where am I going to go with that? I'm not sure what my defense would have been like had I accepted his offer, but it was an affirming part of that whole ritual. In any case, the time was summer, And I came home and I put on some shorts and took off my shoes and I went into the backyard. I remember the feel of the warm grass on my feet. And I sat down under a tree and I opened a book. But this time it was a book I had chosen. And I thought, no more assignments, no more specialized reading for a while. I could actually make my own choices of what I wanted to read, and of course the list was long, as you can imagine. I realized this was an opening of a new chapter, and I was giddy then, too, about the choices I could make. So that's kind of what I feel like this morning as we open a new chapter today. Choices about how to use my time will be mine for the first time in my life come next summer. What this next chapter holds for Sharon and me has a lot of exciting uncertainty about it. I want you to know I am very healthy. I want you to know I have more energy right now than I know what to do with. Surprising energy. And I have a wonderful gladness about being alive. And my main goal for going forward is to be helpful in some way to others. I want to serve in a way that is uplifting, a building up for others. I've devoted almost all of my working life to Christian higher education. I know something about this work, and I believe in it so wholeheartedly, so passionately. I have served in leadership roles for many years, and I have served on all kinds of boards. I've spent endless hours in my study, reading and reflecting and writing. I've thought long and hard about how Christians must engage our postmodern, post-Christian culture. And so I'm thinking, maybe out of all of this, there will be something uplifting and helpful for others. I may have something to say about leadership. I may have something to say about how boards should work. I may have something to say about crafting vision for an organization. So whatever the form it takes, all of that is very exciting to me. But here's what I want to say about the state of the university this morning as we think forward. This is a theme I want to strike in these opening days. When I came here 16 years ago, what I found was a university with so much potential and with so many good people and with such an important urban setting for a Christian university and with such deep and rich roots in this place. As I began to engage in those early conversations, I sensed we were also a group of people who did not believe in ourselves. And that seemed so sad to me. There seemed to be a lot of focus on politics of the university life, some real tension at the core of things. And there was this persistent self-criticism, a kind of diffidence, a consistent tendency to rag on ourselves. And I began to say inside and publicly, no, we can't do that. We got it all wrong. Let's believe in ourselves and let's build something together for God's glory. I tried out the language of premier, and that didn't sit well with some of you. Too prideful, too arrogant, presumptuous. And I get that. But I felt so strongly that we would not flourish if we did not believe in ourselves. In part, that's what I have tried to do in all these years, is to help us believe in ourselves so that we might flourish. But then I always immediately say, as you all know, my goal is always bigger than our own flourishing. I believed also that we had to share our vision of human flourishing with our students, to bring that vision into our community and into the world, so that the world might change. Can we believe in ourselves in this way going forward? What if we make this bold assertion this morning? Seattle Pacific University is clearly one of the leading Christian universities in the country. I'd like to make that claim because it's true. But here's the challenge for us. Here's what I want us to think about once again. What kind of paradigm of leadership should frame that assertion? Blake was saying that very same thing this morning. We didn't compare notes, but exactly the same kind of thing. What kind of paradigm of leadership should frame our assertion that we are a leading Christian university? What kind of leadership does the world need from a leading Christian university? How should we try to shape the lives of our students to be leaders for such a time as this? This is where I have been doing some fresh thinking for me. For the 600th anniversary of the University of St. Andrews, Tom Wright delivered a stunningly beautiful sermon this summer on the role of the university, how the university could lead the society out of the morass in which we find ourselves. And here's the key. Here's the key, folks. What if we were to lead Wright S. with an upside-down vision of human flourishing? A vision that is grounded on the transforming gospel of Jesus Christ. I felt like he was talking about Seattle Pacific. A university will thrive and flourish, Wright says, and a society led by its graduates will thrive and flourish when an upside-down vision of human flourishing takes place. When people realize that humility and meekness before the evidence and before one's peers are the marks of real academic strength. When they recognize that hunger for justice and love of mercy form the elusive center of healthy societies and healthy universities. In Colossians, Paul says, "Put on the garments that suit God's chosen and beloved people: compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience." This is the upside-down way of leading. This is a new paradigm we're looking for in our society for all leaders. This will be the way to call ourselves a leading Christian university. We are so strong right now, folks, as a university. That gives me such great confidence leaving at this time. Our numbers are absolutely fantastic. We will welcome over 1,000 new students tomorrow evening, biggest ever. We will welcome back the largest overall enrollment in our history, some 4,200 students. Our image and our reputation are so strong across the nation. Our vision of engaging the culture and changing the world is known and respected and copied everywhere. Our Christian identity is certain and unwavering, something that has been hugely important to me over the years. We are financially strong and healthy, even in these difficult times. We've added 42 new faculty FTE over my years. We built lots of buildings. We have done something remarkable in the sciences. Over 20% of our students coming in want to major in the sciences. We have built one of the finest programs in theology anywhere in the country. Most importantly for me and for us, we do indeed model grace-filled community in this place. Of course, we have a new university center to build, a project that I believe will take us to new levels. We have new residence halls to build, new classrooms, more faculty to add. We know that. We have more money to raise. We need to ratchet up our goals and focus our efforts in more sophisticated ways to raise that money, to raise at least twice the amount of what we are raising each year. We need more endowment. We know that. We need to move to the semester system, leading the way for our region that is stuck in an old model, out of sync with the rest of the nation. All of this describes the state of the university, state of a leading Christian university. But let me end with a beautiful, complex little poem I discovered this summer. It comes from Psalm 137. I was in Pasadena when I ran into this poem in the course of my daily study, and I immediately called Stephen Newby and I said, "Listen to this, Stephen. This is what we're trying to do at Seattle Pacific. This is what you're trying to do through your music and through our worship together, isn't it?" I don't know Hebrew, though I wish I did. And I'm probably taking a few liberties with my reading, But from all the versions I've read and put together, I think I have it basically right. Dr. Koenig and Dr. Spina will correct me if they object. And by the way, the end of Psalm 137 is troubling and enigmatic to me. Someone needs to explain that part of the whole poem to me. But here is the piece that stopped me in my tracks this summer. Listen to this poem. Here is the heart of the matter for all I have tried to do over these 16 years. Listen to what the psalmist says. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept as we remembered Zion. On the willow trees, there we hung up our harps. But there, those who had carried us captive asked us to sing them a song. Our captors called on us to be joyful. Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? As we look around us, we find ourselves as Christians in exile. We find ourselves in our own land of Babylon. We are in exile. I've tried to write about this in my book and elsewhere, but as Christians, as a Christian university, in our post-Christian world, we find ourselves on the margins. And that's not where a leading university should be. And we are often tempted to sit down and weep by the rivers of Babylon. We are tempted to hang up our harps, remembering another time when our song was strong and beautiful in the culture. But ironically, if I'm reading this passage right, the culture is calling on us to sing them a song out of our great story of human flourishing. A powerful song, a beautiful song of joy. I believe the culture has grown weary and exhausted, as Pope John Paul used to say so much. And the culture sees that we can be joyful. And the culture is calling on us to sing them a song of joy, to sing them one of the songs of Zion. But then the poet asks this critical question. This is the question I have asked almost every day of my 16 years here. How can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? How can we bring into our weary and exhausted world a song of joy, the song of Zion, the song of Jesus, a song that powerfully calls our world to patience and kindness and humility and love? I want you to know I will be trying to answer that question for the rest of my life. It has been the driving question of my leadership here at SPU. I think it is the question for all Christians of our day. I think it is the question for a leading Christian university. How indeed can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? Trust this will be a question for the future for this great university. As a new leader puts on the medallion I have worn with such pride over these many years. Well, God bless each one of you for a great year ahead. This will be quite a year for Sharon and me as we take a new journey of leaving and remembering. May God bless us all as we look to the future and anticipate wonderful new beginnings for this university. Through it all, let's learn better all the time. No matter the discipline in which you work, no matter the department in which you work, let's remember, let's learn better all the time to sing the song of Zion, to name the name of Jesus, to lead with an upside-down vision of human flourishing so that the world can be a better place for all of God's children. So God bless each one of you. God bless our year ahead. God bless the future of this leading Christian university. I love you all. Thank you.